Here we go.
Yay!
I'm so excited. Well,
So
welcome,
fun.
Debbie, to the very first episode of The Naked Truth. I couldn't be more excited. So this conversation is from women, for women, and I'm so excited to be here with Debi Weiss today because not only is she a professional woman I look up to, but she has been my dear friend for many years, and I cannot think of a better person to kick off The Naked Truth with. Hi, Deb.
Hi, thank you for inviting me to the inaugural version. This is a really big deal. This is like, yeah, this is big.
So I want to take a quick moment to share a bit about Debbie so you all know who she is and what her background is before we hop into the conversation. So Debbie is a strategic growth marketing leader with 29 years of experience in finance, accounting, and professional services. She started her career at Fox TV and fell in love with strategic marketing. And she's been a director of marketing at Big Four firms, Ernst Young, and most recently at a top 10 national accounting and consulting firm. And as a female pioneer in professional service marketing, Debbie has led teams in winning many international marketing awards. I've heard about them on many hikes. And she's passionate about leadership and mentoring and coaching her teams and being a role model for other women, which is why she's here today. And Debbie's been married with a 17-year-old daughter and is obsessed with her 2 golden retrievers, who I love too.
And you might hear them in the background every once in a while. So that's just part of the naked truth.
That's right. We are telling the naked truth here. We may hear the dogs, we may hear the children on summer break, and this is how we do it. So
this is working moms. This is how we roll.
This is how we roll. So let's kick this off. So we can start. I'd love to hear how you, a little bit more. We talked about, starting in TV, but tell us a little bit more about how you got started in this incredible career you've had for so many years.
Yeah, well, the naked truth is it was an accident. I mean, I just want to call a spade a spade. It was a total accident. I hated math. I still hate math. People are like, how have you worked at accounting and finance for 30 years? Like, we're raw deal here. This is like, you're getting it all. I majored in speech communications. I love TV broadcasts. First job out of school was working at Fox TV. I was there for 2 years and I was writing the news and I loved it. I mean, the writing, the exciting, it was Miami, it was overnights, it was Fox. I mean, it was, if it bleeds, it leads. It was really thrilling. And, when you're 22, 23, 24, you can do that. I worked graveyard. I never slept. There was a lot going on in the Miami market at the time. And they used to call us the vampires. We would work all night long writing the news for a 3-hour morning news show. And it was fun and it was exciting. But 9 o'clock in the morning, we would be like, we looked like vampires. And I would see the marketing department coming like in these fancy suits and like everyone looked impeccable and everyone was really young and really smart and really exciting. And so I started sort of leaning towards the marketing department. And so I would say I really cut my teeth at Fox marketing, and it was really all kind of accidental, but it made sense. And I just put my head down and I was a sponge for about 2 years. I was making minimum wage and I just listened and I learned. And that was kind of the beginning of like my love affair, I always say, with marketing. It started there.
Amazing. And what a great place to start, right? With a big entertainment studio, and amazing.
It was great. I mean, the great irony was, so I'm, also being real, I'm the first college graduate in my family, my entire family. So when I graduated from college, I think everybody, parents, family, they were expecting this big job and big salary and big benefits. And again, if we're going to be really real, I was making $6.35 an hour. And I was the head news writer. And there were parts of it that were brutal, but I mean, I learned how to write really well, really fast. I learned, headlines. I learned how to grab an audience. At the time, Fox was going after the Latina market in Miami, and everything was about the ratings. And so, sometimes you're getting an education, you don't realize like what that foundation, I still hearken back to what I learned there, and
It's like
the
you were, at that
lessons.
point, it's like you were getting paid to learn. It was almost like
Yes,
paid MBA. You know,
yes,
when I
yeah,
think,
it was a paid, yeah,
and
yeah,
now when you think about this next generation that's coming behind us, and advice and thoughts, and what lessons you learned along the way, like what do you think some of those biggest lessons are that you have taken from that time and learned along the way?
yeah. A lot of it was checking your ego at the door. That was, someone said that to me at Fox from the beginning. They're like, you know, you're here to learn, like you said. It was basically like a paid internship after college graduation. And, you know, the expectation was, sure, I wanted a big corporate job and I knew I would get there, but there were steps. And I worked my butt off. I mean, I worked all the time, and you know, it was very low wages. And I think in your 20s, like that's sort of what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be figuring it out. And a lot of the times I was lost, and a lot of the times I would cry, and a lot of times I was, you know, freaked out and scared. But one thing I'll say is that like I didn't shy away from being in the room. I felt like I belonged in the room. And even if I wasn't saying anything in the room, I was happy to be there, and I felt like I deserved to be there. So that was like, I don't know where that came from. Maybe that was the parents or the upbringing, but it was like, I'm going to be here and I'm going to soak up whatever I can until they won't let me be here anymore. Like that was, for me, that was.
And you were lucky to have felt that way. And for those that maybe don't feel like that way, sometimes we can fake it till we make it, because that sounds like
Right.
a pretty important part of your journey, to have put yourself in that place, whether you were lucky enough to feel like you belong there. Some people may not feel like they belong there, but
Yeah.
putting yourself sometimes in those uncomfortable positions to
Yeah.
learn, right, is
Yeah, yeah,
so important.
absolutely, absolutely. And that was a consistent pattern for me for years. I mean, I ultimately I left Miami, I moved to LA, and when I got here, I decided I wanted to, it was an interesting thing because I wanted to pursue the marketing. I loved that. I mean, I fell madly in love, like you had said in the intro, and it's the truth with marketing, but I didn't necessarily want to do it at Fox. I didn't want to really be in that entertainment world. And I knew that about myself. And I think sometimes you have to be real, like it's sexy, the entertainment industry. And you know, people, they're like, you're moving to LA, you're going to Hollywood. And I did the reverse. Like I answered a bunch of blind marketing ads in the at the time. I'm gonna date myself, but that's okay. The LA Times classifies ads and monster.com and all that. I answered a blind ad, and it happened to be an accounting firm. And that's the accidental. You just never know. I mean, I said to them, you know, I hate math. I did not do well in school. That was not my forte, but I learned really well on the job. And I was lucky. I had an accounting and consulting firm that said, we'll take a chance on you. And we're going to build a department from the ground up. And I had a lot of male mentors and managing partners and wonderful people. But it was interesting because it was definitely heavily male dominated for sure.
Big time. Big time. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've talked to several women lately, and a lot of the conversation is that, they're so excited about the naked truth because we didn't have a lot of female mentors to look up to. We're sort of leading the charge in many ways in our generation for this. So, again, thank you for doing this. It's so important for our future female leaders. And I'm just curious what you would, when you think about what you've gone through, what advice would you pass on to our future female leaders now?
Yeah, I don't know if we have enough time,
I know,
Rob, for
right? This could be hours long.
this.
I agree. Yeah.
You know, I always say, like, when I finally got to the point where I felt like, okay, you know, I had been at some boutique firms and some mid-sized regional firms, and I decided I really want to see how the big four, and at the time they called it the big boys, did it. I wanted to have the highest marketing budget I could have. I wanted to rise up in corporate America to the highest position I could. And there was a lot of, for me, it was like, pushing and very driven and very motivated. And I would say, probably for most women, like all through the 20s and all through, the 30s, it was this driving to, I'm not even sure we knew what the goal was, but it did feel like at the time, like we were pioneering and, we had to show up, we had to be on our game every single day. I mean, if you're presenting to a board or you're going to a meeting, I would say, a lot of advice I give now to people that I mentor and coach is, know that you belong in the room. Like you do belong there. I remember just walking into conference rooms that were so intimidating, and there would be so many, corporate execs and all men, of course. I mean, most of the time I was the only woman, and everyone would be seated around the table. And it sounds so cliche, but I would notice that women would sort of like pull up a seat in the corner of the room. And I always made sure I sat down at that table. Like I might have been nervous and I might have been shaking in my boots, but like I'm not an imposter. Like I deserve to be here. I've worked my butt off too. And so I think one of the biggest pieces of advice is know that you belong there. Take a seat at that table and do a lot of listening, do a lot of learning. You don't have to be the smartest person in the room. I never was. I mean, to this day, I will tell you, like, not the smartest.
Disagree in many who know you, but sure.
But I think it's part of our superpower, if I really, really dig deep, is that, we're negotiators, right? As women, like we negotiate at home with our families, we negotiate with our kids, we negotiate with the gardener. I mean, we negotiate like it's part of our DNA. Like we're the jugglers and we're the peacekeepers, and we keep the families together. But it wasn't that different from me. I took the same skills, and I was like, a lot of this is negotiation. And so I would take that superpower and I would always make sure that I would strip the emotion out, meaning I still say to this day, like, you don't have to like me. I would hear a lot of people say, like, a lot of women, young women will say to me today, I don't feel like he likes me or the team likes me or she likes me. And I think we have to stop with that language. Like, work is work, and work is not your family. I mean, again, just being real, you can be friendly, you can be friends, but at the end of the day, what served me well through the years was I learned the hard way. I didn't need to be liked. I wanted to be respected. I wanted to be treated like a professional. So I would say to people all the time, you don't have to like me. It's okay, but I'm going to lead this team professionally and respectfully, and I will always treat you that way with the same expectation you'll treat me that way back. So I think, when people talk about, like, don't shed tears at work and don't use your emotion, I think we can take our emotion and harness it and channel it in a way, like, we can be very convincing. We know how to navigate that. We do it all day, every day. So
in a multitasking, communicative, amazing way. So if you were going to look backwards and give your younger self some advice, if you had a chance to do this journey all over again, would you do anything different? Is there any advice you would give your younger self?
I would probably do everything differently. No, not true. I mean, there were, I always say, like, I have the war wounds on the back. You do too. Like, we came up at a time where it was just I think it was just that pioneering, that, I don't know, it was so raw at the time. It was like, wait, you're a woman, and you think that you can be in the boardroom and you deserve to have a conversation at this table. And so some of the advice that I would give my younger self, I would say to worry less about being liked. Just go for respect and professionalism. Kindness, I think, is key. Like, I always would remind myself, even if people were unkind to me, I would try to be kind back, because that's all you have at the end of the day. So I would remind myself also not to say yes. I was a yes person. I was a people pleaser. I was a workaholic. If someone said to me, hey, we need you in Orange County, 1 day a week now, the answer was always yes. If we need you on a plane 5 days a week, the answer was yes. It didn't dawn on me that I had the power and the leverage to say no, or to say, well, again, let's negotiate. Like, no, I'm not going to be on a plane 5 days a week, but maybe we could do 2 or 3. So a lot of advice to younger people and my younger self is to know that worth, that it's okay to negotiate. It's okay to take care of yourself. I would say the first 15 years of my career, I didn't know that that was a thing. I really truly thought, and I think a lot of us do, we're just we were raised that way. I mean, that was like, 70s, 80s, it was like you were a people pleaser and a yes person. And I found the minute I started to say no or to negotiate, I found power. It was very powerful.
100%. I'm going to go
Yeah.
rogue here. I didn't tell you about this question coming, but is there a word or a mantra or a philosophy that you have lived by that you haven't mentioned? Like for me, it's integrity. It's always been, there is one non-negotiable in my career, and it's integrity. Is there anything like that for you?
Yeah, I love the integrity, by the way, because I think, I mean, and you live that, and because I know you as a person and as one of my best friends, but also as a, kick-ass working mom and wife, like integrity is huge. It really is. And I would say there's a lot of those things, the values that we live in our life, like I don't feel like those values from our personal life and our regular life should be that different or different at all than the values we live in our workforce. I mean, we're humans. I mean, we need each other. Like I'm very much a people person, like you're a people person. So I'm always looking for a connection. But I would say like finding the balance and between that professionalism, that respect that I talked about, that kindness, not my husband always says, don't be confused by Debi being kind and soft. He always says, don't confuse that, because you can still be a badass and you can still be a corporate executive, but you don't have to be a bitch. I mean, that's kind of like, that's my naked truth, is like, I've never ever felt like I've been served that up. It's been served to me for years, but I never felt like we needed that. Like we have to raise each other up. I mean, so for women, it's like, extend that hand. I'll extend it to you. Like if you're doing well, then we're all doing well. So that kind of thing, those values.
I love that. And it's such a perfect place for us to wrap up, because it is why I am doing this. There are so many women out there, and look, I want to raise men up. I want to raise women up. I've just chosen a platform for women to support women and women to give advice to women. And I think that's exactly right. Let's continue to put our hand out. Let's raise each other up. Let's continue to build our future female leaders up and each other, because you know what? The more we do it, the more we're going to raise. So
absolutely. And it's phenomenal what you're doing, Rob. I thank you for what you're, like, literally thank you, because if somebody would have been talking about this, for us, it would have been so helpful. So I have so much gratitude for what you're doing. I think it's incredible. And you and I have daughters, and a lot of people out there have daughters, and we've set some really great examples for them. Like, this is how you treat other women, and this is how you should be treated, period, full stop. Like, don't accept anything below that.
That's right. Obviously, I could talk to you for hours, and I'm sure all the women out there could listen to you for hours, but we will wrap it up so we don't go too deep into this. I so appreciate you kicking off this inaugural episode of The Naked Truth with me, and you're the best. Hope everybody out there gets to see how great you are, and love you as much as I can. So thank you.
Love it. Love you, Rob.
Love you.
Bye.